The report arrived at exactly 0300 station time. Observer Cale Varon barely looked up from his desk. He had spent 187 years cataloging developing civilizations for the Galactic Evaluation Authority. During that time he had studied hundreds of worlds. Most followed the same pattern. A species crawled out of its oceans, discovered fire, built cities, invented machines, eventually looked toward the stars. Then came the assessment. Then came the decision. Cale had written so many reports that entire civilizations had become paperwork. He took a sip of the dark blue tea steaming beside his console and opened the latest file. Designation: SOL3. Local name: Dominant species: human. Population: 8.3 billion. Technological classification: Class 1. Threat assessment: negligible. The holographic image rotated above his desk. A blue planet, large oceans, white cloud formations, green continents. Beautiful, harmless. The kind of world that produced dreamers instead of conquerors. Cale skimmed the accompanying data. 193 nations, thousands of languages, religious divisions, political divisions, economic divisions, military conflicts active in 27 regions. He almost laughed. Humanity spent more effort arguing with itself than preparing for anything beyond its atmosphere. The species had only recently established permanent settlements on its moon. Their fastest ships required months to reach neighboring planets. Their governments could barely agree on trade policies. The evaluation was obvious. He began typing. Species displays limited interplanetary capability. Global unification absent. Military projection restricted to home system. Probability of coordinated resistance against external intervention: 0.03%. He paused only long enough to review the wording. Professional. Objective. Correct. Exactly like thousands of reports before it. Recommendation: Harvest candidate. Forward to Colonial Expansion Directorate. Cale pressed send. The report vanished into the authority network. Finished. Another world processed. Another file closed. Another civilization reduced to numbers. He leaned back in his chair. Outside the observation station viewport, stars stretched endlessly across the darkness. Somewhere among them floated Earth. Tiny. Unimportant. Forgotten already. His terminal chimed. Incoming priority message. Authorization level 7. Cale opened it. The screen filled with a single sentence. Harvest authorization approved. He blinked. That was unusually fast. Normally the bureaucracy required weeks, sometimes months. Apparently higher authorities had already reviewed Earth. Interesting. A second file arrived. Fleet assignment. Expansion Fleet 19. Commander. Supreme Executor Threx. Operational strength: 12,400 vessels. Estimated compliance time: 72 hours. Cale exhaled slowly. 12,400 ships. For a Class 1 civilization. Excessive. Almost insulting. But the Directorate preferred certainty. A fleet that size had ended empires. It had absorbed dozens of species into Galactic Authority territory. No civilization below Class 4 had ever resisted it successfully. Earth certainly wouldn't be the first. He archived the documents and reached for his tea. The tea came from another world. A world that no longer existed as an independent civilization. Its people now worked authority agricultural sectors 300 light-years away. The drink was sweet, pleasant, familiar. Cale drank without thinking about where it came from. That was the nature of routine. After enough years, impossible things became ordinary. A civilization disappeared. A report was filed. Another world took its place. The cycle continued. He opened his daily observation log. A simple habit. One final note before ending his shift. Subject: humanity. Status: pending collection. Threat level: non-existent. Compliance probability: 99.4%. Expected outcome: standard integration. Cale stared at the number. 99.4%. Higher than average. Humans would probably surrender immediately. Most species did. They always believed they were unique, special, different. Then the fleet arrived. Reality arrived with it. And reality usually won. Cale saved the entry. Turned off his console. Finished his tea. And somewhere far away, beneath the clouds of a blue world he had already forgotten, humanity continued living its ordinary day. Completely unaware that a decision had just been made. A decision that would change the galaxy forever. The fleet arrived on a Tuesday. Not that anyone on Earth knew it would be a Tuesday. Humanity had spent centuries searching the stars. Listening. Watching. Waiting. Most scientists expected first contact to begin with a signal. A message. A greeting. Nobody expected 12,400 warships. The first alert appeared at 6:12 Universal Time Coordinated. Deep space monitoring stations detected a gravitational distortion forming 40,000 kilometers above Earth's equator. At first, analysts assumed equipment malfunction. Then a second station confirmed it. Then a third. Within 30 seconds, every major observatory on Earth was staring at the same impossible event. Space folded. Reality bent inward. And something enormous emerged. Then another. And another. And another. The sky filled with ships. Thousands of them. Dark metallic giants hanging silently above the planet. The smallest measured nearly 400 meters long. The largest stretched over 12 kilometers. From the ground they appeared as tiny black shapes against the morning sky. From orbit they looked like a second civilization suspended above Earth. The world stopped. Air traffic halted. Military satellites reoriented. Governments activated emergency protocols that had existed only as theoretical exercises. Within minutes, every major nation had confirmed the same conclusion. The objects were artificial. They were armed. And they were not human. Inside the flagship Dominion Spear, Supreme Executor Threx observed Earth through a panoramic viewport. He was not impressed. The blue world rotated peacefully below. Clouds drifted across continents. Cities sparkled along coastlines. Beautiful. He had seen worlds like this before. Worlds rich with resources. Worlds full of people who believed they mattered. Worlds that surrendered the moment they understood the situation. 27 civilizations. 27 victories. The pattern never changed. His communications officer approached. Broadcast package ready, Executor. Threx nodded. Transmit. The officer pressed a control. A signal erupted outward. Every frequency. Every language band. Every communication spectrum they had detected during their survey. The message was simple. The same message delivered to dozens of civilizations before Earth. Citizens of Earth. Your world has been selected for integration into the Galactic Authority. All military resistance is futile. All governments are ordered to surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in compulsory pacification. Respond within 24 hours. Welcome to your future. The transmission reached Earth 43 seconds later. Around the world, translation systems worked furiously. Artificial intelligence programs decoded the signal. Linguists verified the results. Governments confirmed accuracy. The meaning remained unchanged. Surrender. Or else. By 6:18 Universal Time Coordinated, the United Earth Defense Council had assembled. The council chamber sat 700 meters beneath the Swiss Alps. A place designed during the worst years of geopolitical instability. A place built for disasters. Nuclear war. Asteroid impacts. Global collapse. Nobody had ever imagined it would host humanity's first alien invasion. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the center of the room. The holographic display above the table showed thousands of alien vessels surrounding Earth. The numbers were staggering. Every military analyst reached the same conclusion. Humanity could not win. Not conventionally. Not openly. Not quickly. An advisor finally broke the silence. What are our options? Nobody answered immediately. Because everyone already knew. The room contained some of the greatest military minds on Earth. None could see a path to victory. The fleet above them was simply too large. Too advanced. Too certain. Commander Reyes studied the tactical display. 12,400 ships. The largest invasion force ever recorded. She stared at it for several seconds. Then she spoke. Her voice remained calm. Almost disturbingly calm. How long before they expect an answer? 24 hours. She nodded. Good. Several heads turned. Good. The advisor frowned. Commander? Reyes finally looked away from the display. Request 4 hours. The room went silent. 4 hours for what? For the first time, something resembling a smile appeared on her face. Not confidence. Not happiness. Recognition. Like someone seeing an old problem return. To wake everyone up. Above Earth, Supreme Executor Threx watched the planet turn beneath him. He checked the clock. Any moment now the panic would begin. Any moment now humanity would realize what stood above them. Any moment now they would understand. He had no idea that Earth was already moving. And it had been preparing for this day far longer than anyone in his fleet could possibly imagine. The alien fleet waited. That was what victorious civilizations did. They arrived. They demonstrated overwhelming power. Then they waited for reality to sink in. Supreme Executor Threx had seen the process dozens of times. The pattern was always the same. First came confusion. Then panic. Then political arguments. Then surrender. It was almost comforting in its predictability. He stood on the command deck of the Dominion Spear watching Earth rotate below. Blue oceans. White clouds. Glittering cities. A fragile little world about to learn its place. His communications officer approached. Still no formal response, Executor. Threx checked the time. 2 hours. Reasonable. Most species needed time to argue. Continue monitoring. The officer nodded and returned to his station. Everything remained exactly as expected. At least for another 7 minutes. Then something strange happened. A sensor technician frowned. Sir? Threx glanced over. What is it? The technician hesitated. Civilian communication traffic has dropped. So? It shouldn't. The technician enlarged several displays. Millions of signals crossed the screen. Then millions became thousands. Then hundreds. Then dozens. Then almost nothing. The room grew quiet. Across Earth, civilian frequencies were disappearing. News networks vanished. Social media vanished. Entertainment channels vanished. Commercial traffic vanished. Entire communication grids simply went dark. Not damaged. Not destroyed. Turned off. Threx stared at the display. Jamming? No, sir. Hacking? No. The technician swallowed. They're shutting themselves down. That made no sense. Species under threat became louder. Not quieter. They screamed. They broadcast emergency declarations. Political leaders delivered speeches. Religious figures prayed publicly. Families sent final messages. Fear always made noise. It was one of the few universal constants in the galaxy. Earth was doing the opposite. 3 hours after first contact, the planet had become unnaturally quiet. Inside Observation Station 7, Senior Analyst Cale Varon noticed it too. His monitoring systems continuously tracked Earth's communication patterns. He had expected chaos. Instead, he found silence. He reran the scan. Then ran it again. The results remained unchanged. He opened a new report. Anomaly detected. Global civilian communication shut down. Coordinated. Voluntary. Planet-wide. Behavior inconsistent with historical surrender profiles. Cale stared at the words. In nearly 2 centuries of observation work, he had never written anything like them. His sensory filaments tightened against his neck. An involuntary reaction. The biological equivalent of unease. Earth was not behaving correctly. Below the silence, something else was happening. At first it was subtle. Tiny thermal signatures. Small energy spikes. Nothing remarkable individually. But together. Cale's eyes narrowed. The pattern spread across continents. North America. Europe. Asia. Africa. South America. Australia. The oceans. Everywhere. The heat signatures increased. Not randomly. Systematically. Like pieces of a machine activating one by one. He enlarged the display. Thousands of underground facilities appeared. Then tens of thousands. Then more. His instruments struggled to keep up. What are you doing? He whispered. The planet offered no answer. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Commander Elena Reyes watched the same activation reports arrive. Facility Sigma, online. Facility Atlas, online. Facility Blackstone, online. Facility Sentinel, online. Global Readiness Network synchronized. Across Earth, hidden installations awakened. Massive blast doors opened beneath mountains. Launch silos unlocked. Buried reactors reached full output. Submerged platforms rose from ocean trenches. Systems that had remained dormant for decades suddenly came alive. Many of the technicians operating them had never truly believed they would be used. Now they moved with practiced efficiency. No panic. No confusion. Only procedure. Only preparation. Only work. One officer approached Reyes. Global activation at 72%. Continue. 81%. Continue. 93%. The officer looked up. His expression carried the weight of what those numbers meant. Commander. She met his gaze. Yes. The aliens think we're surrendering. For the first time in hours, Reyes smiled. A very small smile. The kind that appeared when a prediction proved correct. Good. The officer blinked. Good? She turned toward the tactical display showing 12,400 alien warships hanging confidently above Earth. They came here expecting fear. Her eyes remained fixed on the fleet. They still think silence means fear. Outside, Earth continued turning beneath the stars. Quiet. Calm. Patient. And hidden beneath that silence, something enormous was waking up. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. Something humanity had built not because they expected this day, but because they knew that one day eventually someone would come. And when that day arrived, humanity intended to be ready. At 10:17 Universal Time Coordinated, the first hatch opened. It happened beneath the Sahara Desert, 300 meters below the surface. A blast door weighing 8,000 tons slid aside for the first time in 41 years. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ancient warning lights flickered to life. Deep inside the facility, rows of machines awakened. Technicians who had trained their entire careers for a moment they secretly believed would never come exchanged silent looks. No speeches. No celebration. Just work. The order had arrived. Execute Protocol Horizon. Across Earth, identical messages appeared. Mountains opened. Ocean platforms rose. Underground silos unlocked. Entire installations that officially did not exist suddenly became active. Humanity's hidden network was waking up. Not because governments trusted one another. Not because nations loved each other. But because every generation had inherited the same fear. One day something would come from the stars. And if it did, humanity would have only one chance. For 2 centuries, rival nations had secretly competed to prepare for that possibility. They had argued, sabotaged each other, spied on one another, then quietly built contingency plans anyway. Every nation believed its own solution would save humanity. Nobody realized that together they had built something far larger. Commander Elena Reyes watched activation reports flood her screen. Facility Atlas, online. Facility Hammerfall, online. Facility Deepwater, online. Facility Bastion, online. Orbital Defense Network, ready. Autonomous Production Grid, ready. Strategic Reserve Fleets, ready. Global Synchronization, 100%. The room remained silent. Everyone understood the significance. The plans had worked. All of them. Every forgotten project. Every budget hidden beneath harmless names. Every secret program politicians had mocked in public while funding in private. Humanity had spent 200 years preparing for a nightmare. Now the nightmare had arrived. And the preparations were finally being tested. Above Earth, Supreme Executor Threx remained unconcerned. The silence still puzzled him, but the outcome felt inevitable. His fleet controlled orbit. His weapons could shatter continents. His ships carried enough firepower to erase civilizations. What exactly could a Class 1 species do against that? A communications officer approached. Executor. Yes. We continued detecting energy spikes. Threx barely looked up. Military? Unknown. Threatening? The officer hesitated. We don't know. Threx sighed. The officer's uncertainty irritated him more than the report itself. Humanity was frightened. Everything else was detail. Continue observation. The officer left. Threx returned to his breakfast. Outside the viewport, Earth looked peaceful. He failed to notice that the thermal patterns spreading across the planet no longer resembled military mobilization. They resembled awakening. Observation Station 7 noticed. Kale Varen certainly noticed. His upgraded sensors painted an increasingly impossible picture. The energy signatures weren't concentrated in military zones. They were everywhere. Forests, deserts, ocean floors, mountain ranges, abandoned industrial sites. Even regions previously classified as civilian. The entire planet seemed interconnected. Like a single organism activating dormant systems. Kale enlarged the display again. Then again. Then again. The pattern became visible. His breath caught. It wasn't random. It wasn't reactionary. It was planned. Years of observation had taught him how panic behaved. This wasn't panic. Panic scattered. This focused. Panic improvised. This followed a blueprint. Panic consumed energy. This distributed it. For the first time since becoming an observer, Kale felt something dangerously close to fear. He opened an emergency log. Earth activity reassessment required. Current behavior inconsistent with all recorded surrender stage civilizations. Evidence suggests extensive pre-existing preparation. Preparation for what? He stopped typing. The answer felt obvious. Preparation for us. The realization lingered. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Below him, the blue planet continued turning. Calm. Silent. Waiting. Then the launch countdowns began. Thousands of them. Simultaneously. Across 6 continents and 3 oceans. Buried systems transmitted encrypted synchronization signals. Reactors reached maximum output. Storage chambers opened. Manufacturing complexes released their contents. Operators around the globe watched timers approach zero. No cheering. No dramatic speeches. Only concentration. Only discipline. Only readiness. Commander Reyes stood at the center of the command room. The giant tactical display showed Earth's surface glowing with activation points. Millions of indicators. Millions of preparations. Millions of decisions made decades earlier by people who would never see this day. One officer looked toward her. All systems synchronized. Another spoke. Launch windows green. A third nodded. Ready on your command. The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward Reyes. Far above Earth, 12,400 alien warships waited confidently for surrender. They believed the silence meant weakness. They believed the quiet meant fear. They believed humanity had accepted defeat. Reyes looked at the countdown clock. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She pressed the authorization key. Across the planet, hidden hatches opened. And for the first time in its history, Earth reached toward the stars with its fist closed. The first launch did not look impressive. That was the point. No giant missiles. No planet-cracking lasers. No glorious armadas rising from hidden hangars. Nothing that matched the alien imagination of warfare. Instead, Earth launched millions of tiny objects. Small, dark, almost invisible. They erupted from mountains, from deserts, from forests, from the ocean, from facilities buried beneath cities. The launches happened so quickly that observation satellites struggled to track them. Within 90 seconds, more than 4 million units were climbing toward orbit. Supreme Executor Threx stared at the tactical display. What am I looking at? The answer took longer than anyone liked. Sensor officers scrambled through incoming data. Classification systems failed repeatedly. Threat analysis programs generated conflicting reports. The objects were too small, too numerous, too strange. Finally, one officer spoke. Unknown launch vehicles. Missiles. No. Fighters? No. Then what are they? The officer hesitated. We don't know. Silence spread across the command deck. That answer rarely existed inside a CRE military vessel. Their technology was centuries ahead of most civilizations. Unknown things usually became known within seconds. These remained stubbornly undefined. Threx frowned. Track them. We're trying. Trying. Another answer he disliked. Observation Station 7 detected them moments later. Kale Varen enlarged the sensor feed. Millions of dots climbed through Earth's atmosphere. At first glance they resembled debris. His software classified them as debris. Then the classification changed. Then changed again. Then failed entirely. The objects moved unpredictably. Not randomly. Intentionally. Like a swarm. A living cloud. Kale felt his stomach tighten. Every instinct told him he was watching something important. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. On Earth, Commander Reyes watched the launches unfold exactly as simulations predicted. No surprises. No deviations. Years of testing had eliminated uncertainty. Humanity understood a simple truth. If an enemy possessed superior firepower, fighting that firepower directly was foolish. So they had designed something different. Something aimed not at ships. Not at armor. Not at weapons. But at understanding itself. The first wave reached orbit. CRE point defense systems activated instantly. Thousands of automated cannons opened fire. Energy beams crossed the darkness. Explosive rounds detonated. Tracking computers calculated millions of trajectories per second. The defense grid was magnificent. One of the greatest military systems in the galaxy. And it worked perfectly. Hundreds of thousands of incoming units vanished. Destroyed. Intercepted. Eliminated. The command deck relaxed slightly. Several officers smiled. Point defense effectiveness 98%. Threx nodded. As expected. Then the officer's smile disappeared. Correction. The tactical display updated. The swarm was still coming. Millions remained. The problem wasn't interception. The problem was scale. Humanity had launched more targets than the fleet could process simultaneously. The mathematics became brutal. Every second the swarm grew closer. Every second more units survived. Every second the defense grid became increasingly saturated. Kale watched the numbers climb. Then something happened. The first units reached the fleet. No explosions followed. No impacts. No visible damage. Several CRE officers looked confused. Did they miss? They must have. Then a destroyer vanished from the network. Not physically, digitally. Its identification marker went dark. Communications lost. Sensors offline. Navigation offline. The ship still existed. It simply could no longer see, or hear, or speak. Another ship vanished. Then another. Then 3 more. Then 12. The command deck erupted. What's happening? We've lost telemetry. Sensor arrays are failing. Communications relays offline. Navigation systems unresponsive. Thrax stepped toward the tactical display. For the first time that day, uncertainty entered his expression. The swarm wasn't attacking hulls. It was attacking systems. Tiny machines landed across sensor arrays. Communication dishes. Targeting networks. External relays. Data processors. Not destroying them. Consuming them. Dismantling them. Piece by microscopic piece. Like termites eating a building from the inside. The realization hit all at once. Humanity had not targeted the fleet. Humanity had targeted the fleet's ability to understand what was happening. The distinction was horrifying. Across orbit, thousands of warships suddenly found themselves blind. Disconnected. Powerful vessels carrying enough weapons to shatter planets. Unable to communicate with the ship beside them. Unable to identify threats. Unable to coordinate. Unable to fight effectively. The tactical map changed color. Green markers became yellow. Yellow became red. The transformation accelerated every second. Kale Varen stared in disbelief. His hands hovered above the console. Forgotten. Motionless. After 2 centuries of observation work, he finally understood why Earth had gone silent. The silence had never been surrender. It had been concentration. Preparation. Patience. The kind of patience a species develops after surviving thousands of years of war, disaster, extinction scares, and impossible odds. Earth had spent centuries waiting for someone to arrive. And now someone finally had. The galaxy expected humanity to fight harder. Instead, humanity had fought smarter. And the first lesson was already becoming clear. The most dangerous weapon in orbit was not the swarm. It was the mind that had imagined it. The collapse began quietly. That was what terrified Kale Varen most. Wars in his experience were loud. Explosions. Emergency broadcasts. Distress calls. The frantic noise of civilizations discovering that survival was no longer guaranteed. This wasn't loud. This was silence spreading. One ship at a time. A destroyer went dark. Then a cruiser. Then an entire battle group. Across the tactical display. Across the tactical display, red indicators multiplied like a disease. Not destroyed. Disconnected. Blind. Supreme Executor Threx stood frozen before the command screen. Status report. Nobody answered immediately. Not because they refused. Because nobody knew. The command network itself was failing. Reports arrived incomplete. Corrupted. Delayed. Entire sectors of the fleet simply vanished from coordination. Finally, an officer spoke. Loss of fleet communication has reached 23%. Another interrupted. 31%. A third looked up. Another checked the translation. It's authentic. A third delegate shook his head. They could simply destroy the system. Yes. Then why give warning? Nobody answered. Because every answer created more questions. Back on Earth, Commander Elena Reyes reviewed incoming reports. The operation proceeded exactly as planned. Civilian evacuation routes functioning. Industrial seizure teams deployed. Engineering units entering target zones. No civilian casualties reported. An aide looked at her. The council is watching. I know. They expected us to destroy everything. Reyes nodded. Most species would. The aide hesitated. And we won't. For a moment she thought about the question. Then she answered quietly. We came here because they attacked our home. Her eyes returned to the display. Factories. Shipyards. Weapons production centers. Nothing else. We're not here because we enjoy destruction. Far away, High Speaker Soreth Vaughn continued watching the human advance. Something about it unsettled her more than the battle itself. The weapons were dangerous. The strategy was brilliant. But neither frightened her. What frightened her was restraint. Humanity had the power to become a nightmare. Instead, they were choosing limits. And any species capable of choosing limits after victory was far more difficult to predict than one driven by hatred. For the first time in 14 centuries, Soreth Vaughn felt something she had not experienced in a very long time. Not fear of human strength. Fear of human potential. Because the galaxy was beginning to realize a terrible possibility. Earth had not shown what it could do. Earth had shown only what it was willing to do. The 6-hour deadline expired exactly on schedule. Not 5 minutes early. Not 5 minutes late. Exactly. Across the first CRE staging world, the last evacuation transport lifted from the surface and disappeared into orbit. Human sensors tracked every vessel. Verified every route. Confirmed every civilian corridor. Only then did the operation continue. High above the planet, thousands of Galactic Council observers watched in disbelief. This was the moment. The point where victorious civilizations usually revealed their true nature. History had established a pattern. Every species claimed restraint before victory. Very few practiced it afterward. Now the galaxy waited to see which category humanity belonged to. The answer arrived immediately. And it confused everyone. Because humanity didn't attack. At least not the way anyone expected. No orbital bombardment. No city-destroying weapons. No mass executions. No triumphant military parade. Instead, human transports descended into industrial districts. Engineering vessels landed beside shipyards. Cargo haulers entered manufacturing zones. Thousands of specialists spread across the planet. And then they began taking everything apart. Piece by piece. Panel by panel. System by system. The largest military factory on the planet ceased production 3 hours later. Not because it had been destroyed. Because humans were dismantling it. Carefully. Methodically. Professionally. Like mechanics disassembling an engine. Corporal Malik Okoro stood inside a massive assembly complex that stretched beyond the horizon. The building was enormous. The ceiling vanished into darkness hundreds of meters overhead. Machines larger than houses sat motionless across the factory floor. For a moment he simply stared. The CRE were good engineers. Very good. Some of the systems surrounding him were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Different solutions. Different ideas. Different philosophies. Not better. Not worse. Different. An engineering officer approached carrying a scanner. Tag everything. Malik nodded. Everything? The officer smiled. Everything that made them dangerous. The work continued. Not destruction. Collection. Cataloging. Learning. Human engineers documented every component. Every design. Every innovation. The goal wasn't revenge. The goal was understanding. Across the system, dozens of military worlds experienced identical operations. Shipyards emptied. Weapons facilities disappeared. Research centers were stripped clean. Entire production chains vanished into waiting cargo fleets. The process resembled archaeology more than war. Observation Station 7 watched it all. Kale Varon reviewed the reports repeatedly. The data refused to make sense. He finally opened another log. Hour 21. Human occupation behavior inconsistent with all known conquest models. No civilian targeting. No territorial annexation. No ideological enforcement. Primary objective appears technological acquisition and strategic disarmament. He paused. Then typed another line. Humans are behaving as though they are solving a problem rather than winning a war. The thought stayed with him. Because it felt true. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the debate intensified. They've already won. They control the systems. They could claim territory. They could demand tribute. They could destroy the CRE permanently. The delegates argued. Speculated. Predicted. None of their theories survived contact with reality. Because humanity continued ignoring opportunities for empire. High Speaker Soreth Vaughn remained silent throughout most of the discussion. Finally, one delegate turned toward her. You've been studying them longer than anyone. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched the projection. Humans moving through an alien shipyard. Engineers dismantling reactors. Soldiers guarding evacuation routes. Workers loading technology into transports. No celebrations. No speeches. No monuments. Just work. Careful. Disciplined. Purposeful work. What do you think they're doing? The delegate asked. Soreth finally spoke. They're finishing. The chamber quieted. Finishing what? The task. Several delegates exchanged confused looks. She pointed toward the projection. Most species view victory as an emotional event. No one interrupted. They view it as punishment, revenge, justice, pride, glory, conquest, or fear. Her eyes remained fixed on the humans. Humanity appears to view victory differently. The room waited. Soratha's voice lowered. They appear to view it as responsibility. Silence followed. Because nobody had considered that possibility. Not once. Not in thousands of years of recorded history. Hours later, a ceasefire request finally arrived from the CRE government. The message was formal, respectful, carefully written. For the first time in centuries, the CRE were asking instead of demanding. The request reached Earth. Human Command acknowledged receipt, then sent a response. Only 5 words. Received. We'll finish first. The message spread across the Council network within minutes. Delegates read it, then read it again. Some interpreted it as arrogance. Others interpreted it as confidence. Sorath Vaughn interpreted it differently. Humanity wasn't delaying peace. Humanity was keeping its promise. They had said they were here for infrastructure. And until every military factory was dismantled, every warship disabled, and every threat removed, they intended to finish the job. Because the most shocking thing about humanity wasn't how effectively they fought. It was how seriously they took responsibility after winning. The war officially ended 11 days later. Not with a final battle. Not with a surrender ceremony. Not with a fleet firing salutes above a conquered world. It ended with paperwork. The irony was not lost on anyone. After centuries of expanding across the galaxy through force, the CRE Empire now sat across a negotiation table waiting for humanity's conditions. Every major government, every intelligence service, every Galactic Council delegate, every surviving CRE official, all expected the same thing. Humanity would demand territory. That was what victorious civilizations did. Land, resources, political submission, strategic control. History had established the pattern thousands of times. The only question was how much Earth intended to take. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere felt unusually tense. 47 species filled the room. Nobody wanted to miss the moment. At precisely 1600 hours station time, Earth's official terms arrived. 3 points. Only 3. The chamber stared at the document. Then stared longer. Then checked the document again. Certain there must be missing pages. There weren't. The first condition read: return all surveillance data collected on humanity prior to first contact. A murmur spread through the chamber. The second condition appeared: grant Earth permanent observer status within the Galactic Council. More silence. Then came the third: no contact with Earth for 50 standard years unless initiated by Earth. That was all. 3 conditions. No territory. No reparations. No tribute. No demand for political control. No conquered systems. No military occupation. Nothing. The room struggled to process it. A younger delegate finally spoke. That's impossible. Nobody disagreed. Because it felt impossible. The CRE had invaded Earth. Threatened extinction. Launched a harvest operation. Lost. And humanity wanted privacy? High Speaker Sorath Vaughn reread the terms. Again. And again. The simplicity unsettled her more than any weapon Earth had deployed. Most civilizations sought proof of victory. Humans sought distance. One delegate leaned forward. They could own half the sector. Another nodded. They have every legal justification. A third shook his head. They're walking away. The realization spread slowly. Like dawn. Humanity had never entered CRE territory for conquest. They had entered to remove a threat. Once the threat disappeared, their purpose disappeared with it. Commander Elena Reyes sat alone in her office when the acceptance notice arrived. She read it once, then closed the file. No celebration followed. No cheering. No triumphant speeches. The war had ended. That was enough. An aide entered moments later. The council accepted everything. Reyes nodded. Good. The aide hesitated. That's it. She looked up. What else would there be? The aide laughed softly. Most people expected more. Reyes considered that. Then glanced toward a photograph resting on her desk. A child standing beneath a homemade telescope. Looking upward. Wondering what waited among the stars. We didn't fight this war because we wanted something from them. The aide remained silent. We fought because they came here. She looked back at the acceptance notice. The objective was always the same. Protect Earth? Reyes nodded. Everything else was noise. Far away, Observation Officer Cale Varen finished reading the terms for the 7th time. His report remained open. The cursor blinked patiently. Waiting. Finally he typed. Analysis. Humanity does not appear motivated by conquest. Humanity appears motivated by preservation. He paused. Then continued. This distinction may be the most important discovery in galactic history. Because conquest seeks control. Preservation seeks protection. And species willing to cross the stars for protection are often far more dangerous than species crossing them for power. Cale leaned back. Outside his viewport, stars burned quietly in the darkness. For centuries, the galaxy had measured strength by how much a civilization could take. Humanity had introduced a different measure. How much it could refuse. And somehow that felt far more powerful. The next day, Earth transmitted one final message to the galaxy. Not a threat. Not a warning. Not a declaration. Something far stranger. Something no one expected. And it would change how the galaxy understood humanity forever. The transmission left Earth at 0:01 Universal Time Coordinated on a Thursday. No announcement preceded it. No world leader introduced it. No military officer stood before cameras. No dramatic countdown appeared on screens. Somewhere deep inside a building that officially did not exist, a technician received authorization. A single key was pressed. And humanity spoke to the galaxy. The signal traveled outward on every recognized Galactic Council frequency. It was addressed to no one, which meant it was addressed to everyone. Observation Officer Cale Varen received it first. The alert woke him from sleep. He sat upright immediately. The source identifier flashed across his console. Earth. Length, 4 hours 11 minutes. Cale expected diplomacy. A statement. A warning. A declaration of power. Instead, the transmission began with rain. Nothing else. Just rain. Soft rain falling against a rooftop somewhere on Earth. For 20 seconds, that was all. Then came laughter. A child laughing so hard that words became impossible. Someone else laughed in response. Then more voices joined. The recording ended. Another began. Music. Not one song. Many. Different languages. Different instruments. Different cultures. Different centuries. Some joyful. Some sad. Some triumphant. Some heartbreakingly beautiful. The music flowed into one another without explanation. No narrator described it. No translation accompanied it. Humanity simply allowed the galaxy to listen. Cale stopped taking notes. For the first time in 200 years he simply listened. The transmission continued. Footsteps running through city streets. A train station at sunrise. People arguing passionately in a crowded cafe. Someone singing while working. A father teaching his daughter how to ride a bicycle. The crash. The fall. The tears. Then laughter. Then trying again. The recordings came one after another. Unorganized. Unfiltered. Honest. And slowly Cale realized something. This was not a presentation. This was a confession. The galaxy expected humanity to explain its weapons. Humanity was explaining itself. The next recording came from a hospital. Machines hummed softly. A weak voice whispered something. Another voice answered. Then silence. Not empty silence. The silence of someone refusing to leave another person alone. The silence of loyalty. The silence of love. Cale found himself sitting perfectly still. His terminal remained untouched. Across the galaxy, millions were doing exactly the same thing. The transmission continued. A wedding. People dancing. People crying. People laughing. A grandmother holding a newborn child. A farmer planting a tree. A student receiving a diploma. A family gathered around a dinner table. Ordinary moments. Tiny moments. Moments so insignificant they should have been forgotten. Yet humanity had chosen them carefully. Because together they explained everything. At the Galactic Council chamber, 47 species listened. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The room that had hosted wars, treaties, and political battles for thousands of years became completely silent. The transmission reached its final hour. A crowd appeared. Thousands of humans. Cheering. Screaming. Celebrating. The sound was overwhelming. Then it vanished. Replaced by another recording. A protest. People standing in rain. Holding signs. Arguing with their own governments. Demanding change. Demanding justice. Demanding something better. The recording ended. Another began. A child learning to walk. The child took one step, then another, then fell. A nearby adult inhaled sharply. The child laughed, got up, tried again. Another step, then another, then another. The adult finally laughed too. A simple moment, nothing important, nothing historic. Yet tears appeared in eyes throughout the council chamber, because suddenly everyone understood. The transmission had never been random. It had been building toward something. A pattern. The truth. Humanity's greatest achievement was not reaching space, not winning wars, not building fleets. Humanity's greatest achievement was getting back up. Again, and again, and again. After every fall, after every disaster, after every mistake, after every war, humanity always got back up. The final recording began. Commander Elena Reyes. The same calm voice that had coordinated Earth's defense. The same voice that had ordered fleets across the stars. She spoke only once. We didn't want war. Pause. We won it anyway. Another pause. We could have gone further. Silence. We chose not to. Then her voice softened. Barely. Almost imperceptibly. This is who we are. Another pause. Long enough for the words to settle. We thought you should know. The transmission ended. No music followed. No final statement. No demand. No threat. Just silence. For 11 days, no civilization contacted Earth. Not because they were afraid. Kale understood that now. Fear had a different shape. This was reflection. The galaxy had spent thousands of years measuring civilizations by fleets, by weapons, by territory, by power. Humanity had forced everyone to reconsider. Because beneath the fleets and weapons and victories was something else. Something deeper. The reason those things existed. Love, loss, memory, hope. The desperate refusal to surrender the things that mattered. On the 12th day, Kale filed his final report. The last sentence took him nearly an hour to write. When he finished, he read it 3 times. Then submitted it. Classification revision. Humanity cannot be measured through conventional threat analysis. Current categories insufficient. Observed defining characteristic. Persistence. Additional notes. Humanity falls. Humanity rises. Repeat indefinitely. Kale stared through the viewport. Far away, an ordinary yellow star burned quietly in the darkness. Around that star circled a small blue world. A world his report had once labeled harmless. A world he had completely misunderstood. For a long time he watched that distant point of light. Then he smiled. A small smile. The kind that appears when a mystery finally becomes clear. The galaxy had mistaken humanity's scars for weakness. It had mistaken humanity's arguments for division. It had mistaken humanity's compassion for softness. Most of all, it had mistaken humanity's patience for surrender. Now it knew better. Because the truth was simple. Humanity was not dangerous because it could fight. Humanity was dangerous because it loved. And anything that deeply in love with its home would cross any distance, endure any hardship, and face any enemy to protect it. The stars remained silent. But for the first time in a very long time, the galaxy was listening.